Hello everyone, I'm Danny, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to discuss about how to properly water Phalaenopsis orchids. Now Phalaenopsis orchids are the popular choice for everybody. Their long-lasting, beautiful flowers are simply impossible to refuse. When you see them in the store, you simply want to have one of your own or you want to gift one to your loved ones. But the tricky part comes when you have to water it, because Phalaenopsis orchids are epiphyte orchids. This means they don't grow in soil in their natural habitat. They actually cling to trees. For this reason, watering is slightly different than what you would perform with any other houseplant you might have. But don't worry, watering Phalaenopsis orchids is really not that hard, and I shall demonstrate for you today how I like to water my Phalaenopsis orchids. When you're going to purchase a Phalaenopsis orchid, you'll probably notice that it comes in a clear pot. This is because the roots of a Phalaenopsis orchid can photosynthesize. This can actually help us determine when we need to water our Phalaenopsis orchid. As you might have noticed, the media for Phalaenopsis orchids is not made out of soil. Usually they come potted in these bark chips, which are very airy and don't necessarily hold a lot of moisture. For this reason, it is absolutely necessary that we give a very good water to our orchid. It's not enough to pour a little bit of water in the media and hope that the orchid will absorb the water. So this type of media, which is used with Phalaenopsis orchids, has the benefit to maintain the root system airy. This is actually crucial for epiphyte orchids. However, the drawback is that it does not stay as moist as normal soil. However, potting this type of orchid in normal soil will suffocate the root system and eventually kill the orchid. So now that we know a bit about the potting media in which Phalaenopsis orchids come in and why it is used, let us learn how to properly water it. As I was saying, the bark media is not as water retentive as normal soil, so when we water a Phalaenopsis orchid, we need to properly water it. So for this reason, I like to use a different container which does not have drainage holes. It can be a decorative pot, it can be a bowl, whatever you have around the house, which can fit the actual orchid pot. So place the orchid inside the decorative container or the bowl. Then you can use a watering can to fill the bowl with water. Now I would like to show you how I like to water. I never water from above the orchid, and I'll tell you in a minute why. I always place my watering can somewhere where there is no leaves, no stems, or anything of the sorts. And then I just fill up the container. You can also place the water flow in between the orchid's pot and the decorative container, like so. When you fill the decorative container with water, make sure that the water level does not go above the brim of the orchid pot. For more safety though, you can fill the decorative container 1 centimeter or half an inch below the actual rim of the orchid pot. Now the reason why I say this is that Phalaenopsis orchids are prone to rotting. If water gets trapped between the leaves, in the crown of the orchid, or somewhere in the stem, it can lead to rotting of that tissue. This is actually the #1 killer of Phalaenopsis orchids in a home. This is why I told you never water from above. Try to maintain the leaves of the orchid, the crown, which is the center of the orchid, the places in between the leaves and the stem, as dry as you can. So only water the root system. Now you can leave this orchid sit like this for 10 or 15 minutes. During this time, the roots will absorb water. As you can see, the roots of a Phalaenopsis orchid are quite thick. This is because they can actually store water. So by soaking the orchid, we replenish the water storage devices. Now, while we let this orchid soak, I would like to talk a little bit about the type of water you use. The temperature of the water you use with a Phalaenopsis orchid should not be too low or too high. Lukewarm water or room temperature water is what this orchid needs. Now I know there is a certain company which advises you to use ice cubes with orchids. Well, I'm here to tell you that in time, ice cubes can really damage an orchid's roots. These plants are exotic plants. In their natural habitat, they do not experience low temperatures, nor freezing water. So for this reason, it is much safer to use lukewarm water. Now, in the majority of cases, you can use tap water with Phalaenopsis orchids. They are really resilient and especially created for a home environment. But if you know that your water source has very hard water, you should use rainwater or distilled water. Orchids in general do not like hard water. For this reason, it is not a good idea to use bottled spring water either. If you would like to use rainwater, reverse osmosis, or distilled water with your orchid, make sure that you always use fertilizer. No mineral content at all can actually lead to an orchid's demise as well. But as I said, for the main part, tap water with a medium hardness and a pH lower than 7.5 is actually pretty good for Phalaenopsis orchids. So now that we know the type of water we should use with a Phalaenopsis orchid, let's discuss about when to water our orchid. A Phalaenopsis orchid should be watered when the media and the root system are totally dry. To figure out when the roots of a Phalaenopsis orchid are dry, all you need to do is take a look at them. Dry roots will have a silvery gray appearance. When the roots of your orchid are silvery gray and also the bark media looks very dry, it is time to water your orchid. On the other hand, roots that are wet will become green. So I'll take you in closer so you can notice how a root can change color. So let's take for example this root. As you can see, it is silvery gray. But look what happens when I wet it. It is very noticeable that the color changed from that silvery gray to a nice green color. So as a general rule, when all the roots are silvery gray, it is time to water. If the roots are still green, it is not time to water yet. This can be every 3 days, or every 5 days, or every 7 days. It really depends on your environment. So I will not tell you to water a Phalaenopsis orchid once a week, because your orchid might need watering less frequent or more frequent than that. But as you can see, it is really easy to tell when your orchid needs water. Okay, so my orchid has been sitting in water for 10 to 15 minutes. It is now time to discard the water in the bowl. I like to use a separate dish or a tray and simply pull out the orchid from the decorative container, let it drain a little bit, and then place it on the separate tray to let it drain further. Then simply dump out the water that you used. It is a very good idea to drain as much excessive water from the pot as possible. Orchids do not like to have wet feet. So after a few minutes, my orchid is pretty well drained and all the excessive water is in the tray. So now it is time to place back my orchid in its original place. If you keep your orchid in decorative containers, make sure there is no water on the bottom of the decorative container. In some cases, your Phalaenopsis orchid will have aerial roots. These are the roots that are not placed in the potting media. It is not a good idea to cut these roots or to try to place them in the media. But what you can do is just give them a small spray from time to time, just to make sure that they do not desiccate. So my orchid is now watered. As you can see, the root system is not silvery gray anymore. It is green. Now, while your orchid looks like this, it does not need water. But when all of these roots become silvery gray again, you should water your orchid again following the same procedure. Now, sometimes Phalaenopsis orchids come potted in sphagnum moss. Now, sphagnum moss is mostly used with mini Phalaenopsis orchids. The benefits of the sphagnum moss is that it can retain a lot of water. The downside is that if you water too often, it can stay moist for too long, and it can actually kill the orchid in time by suffocating its roots. So when you water a Phalaenopsis orchid potted in sphagnum moss, you do not have to soak it like this. What you can do, though, is try to pour water on top of the media, again making sure that you do not water the orchid itself between the leaves or in the crown. Just run some water on the top for a few seconds, then let the orchid drain and place it back. The sphagnum moss is just so water retentive and absorbent that it will distribute the moisture evenly. The same rules apply. When your orchid has green roots, you shouldn't water, but when the roots become silvery gray, you can give your orchid a drink of water. Now, if you'd like to know more about Phalaenopsis orchids and how to care for them, I will add an annotation link right here that you can click, and also in the description of this video with an extensive tutorial on how to properly care for Phalaenopsis orchids. So if you've enjoyed this video, then please like and share. If you want to see more videos with orchids from me, just click right here to subscribe to my channel. You can also leave me questions or suggestions in the comment section below. If you click on the left side of your screen, you'll be directed to orchidnature.com, where you will find care sheets and identification sheets and forums. And on the right side of your screen, you can click to see another Phalaenopsis orchids video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!